Hey, hello. Say it with me. It is okay to be bad at things, no matter what your parents might have told you or how your friends laughed at you being terrible at, I don't know, say skating, for example, or how your partners despaired at you never quite getting it right and being absolutely terrible at something you all do together, like, say, tabletop role playing games. No matter what anyone might have said, it is okay to be bad at things. And the crazy thing is, even science agrees with that point. Now, confession time. I never learned how to ride a bike. When I was 8, one of my cousins got a bicycle for Christmas. And because he was quite the generous soul, he willingly shared his bike with me. And so I climbed on his bike that seemed way bigger than I initially thought it would be. Now that I was no longer on solid ground and was expected to use its pedals to get around, I fell often, a lot, to the delight of my cousin who loved seeing me tumble to the ground. But I never got good, and eventually I started associating riding a bicycle with being in pain and gave up on ever learning how to ride a bike. It took a couple of years, when I was in my early 20s actually, for me to realize that I probably would have had an easier time at it if maybe, say, someone had gotten me training wheels for that bike, or even better, someone had simply told me it was okay that I was bad at riding a bicycle. And it didn't matter if others laughed at me for being bad at it. I think a lot of the things that I gave up was simply because I was bad at them. That rather than sit in that knowledge that it was okay that I'm not perfectly good at everything, which what human being is, I instead chose to simply give up. I tried learning breakdancing as a child, realized that I was terrible at coordinating in a way that would make the dancing fun, and so I quit. I tried learning how to embroider, like I mentioned in my Eloise Bridgerton is one of the boys video, but because I spent many an afternoon pricking myself with the needle rather than actually working on any designs, I was convinced that I was terrible at it and quit. I tried learning pottery in primary school. My school had a potter's wheel and a kiln and a teacher who wanted to teach us. I told myself I wanted to make a vase that I could put some of the fake flowers we had in my living room in it. But my clay never became anything but a misshapen mess. And when I realized I was bad at it, I quit. Same way I quit learning the piano and learning how to crochet. Same way I quit learning how to draw. Same way I quit learning French. My childhood is littered with memories of me discovering that I was terrible or bad at something, and then I followed it up by quitting. And what made it easier for me was because others laughed at how bad I was at those things. And yet, when I got my very first console, the NES, I was terrible at the games that I had on it at first. Except Mario. I think everyone has a basic understanding of how Mario works, and the start of it rewards you immediately for getting things right and knowing how to work the controls on the pad. But like I stated in my RPGs at home video, I was terrible at duck hunts, which meant that damn duck kept flying away and I kept failing at the game. And so I quit that. But only that. Mortal Kombat, however, I kept playing, and sure enough, I eventually mastered how to play as Sonya. But I loved Scorpion's "get over here," so I switched mainly because I thought it sounded cool. And I won, and kept winning. And eventually, I got good. The same with Control Force. Like I said, I loved playing as Smith, so although I started off as being terrible and bad at playing video games, and although I had people laugh at me at first, I got fairly decent at playing those games eventually. And that was when I realized, now in present time, of course, not then. Then I was a child, I didn't know much, but I realized that it was okay to be bad at things because they gave you a chance. Not necessarily to be good or great, but you could maybe be decent at it. And you could enjoy the process of getting good whilst you're at it. The psychologist Dr. Amy Daramos is quoted as saying, "When you refuse to do anything you're not great at, what you're telling yourself is that you're only okay if you're perfect. That's going to lead to a lot of pain in life. If you can't cook a simple meal or take a photo without being upset if it's not flawless, you're going to hurt a lot of the time. So enjoying yourself, even if you're not excelling, is an act of profound self-respect. I think as a people, we've forgotten the simple joys that can be found in not being totally, completely great at something. Like you're expecting to be a Michelin star level chef when all you need to do is make some cold noodles and toss it in a stir fry dish. Why set yourself up on the altar of perfection for which we would always be found wanting when we can just enjoy what we want to do, even if we're terrible at it? Part of me really wishes that younger Noria knew that. I wonder where I would be now if I'd accepted that yes, I was bad at pottery, but I still continued to try it out. Would I have gotten better at it? Would I instead have a home filled with misshapen pots and vases that I made with my own hands? Horrible and ugly though they may be, but they were still made by me? Would I have gotten better at them with time? Because no matter how terrible you are at something, I do believe that eventually, with time, you might get a bit less terrible. Like, I'm not expecting that you'll be great, for example. I'm not expecting that after I kept working on learning pottery for when I was a kid, I would eventually become a world-renowned artist whose pots are in high demand. But wouldn't it have been lovely if I was finally able, after putting in a bit more hours and effort than my other classmates who had it much easier than me and learned faster, I was able to make a vase that I could then dry and fire in the kiln and take home as a memento of that class? How great would that satisfaction be? That I wasn't doing that work for the sake of this great reward, but just because. I think that's something that a lot of us miss out on. The chance to do things just because. There shouldn't be a problem with that. So maybe you need 20 extra hours to finish that video game, and maybe it's 20 hours more than others because you're not naturally good at it. What's the problem with that? Take your time. Learn the controls, learn the moves, ease yourself slowly into the game, and eventually you might figure out how it works. Or you will learn the best kept secret that every single gamer knows and people rarely talk about, because the expectation is that we all know these things. You can research the best builds for your character. You can watch gameplay videos to figure things out. There have been times when I've gotten stuck whilst playing a game, Mass Effect Andromeda, when I'd simply gone, I seem to be terrible at this portion of the game. No worries, I will just hop on YouTube and see if someone else has defeated this architect thing and figure out how I might go about it. I do that without any guilt or shame because I'm aware that I'm not the best at video games. Matter of fact, most of us were not born being great at video games. The people who often are have been playing for a long time and for intensive periods of time. And no matter how amazing and great and fantastic you might think someone is at playing video games, because I have had colleagues, for example, who are convinced that they game better than me, to which I don't even bother responding to them. We all play different games. They love FIFA. I'm not touching FIFA with a 10-foot pole because I love me my RPGs, and I'm not a fan of sports game, especially not football. But they are convinced they are better than me. But I know that there are certain games I would be way better at than they are because I've sunk more time into them than they have. But also because, and most importantly, no matter how good anyone thinks they are at something, including video games, there will always be someone out there who is better. That is just life. Ask esport players. So you get better at things. It's okay to be bad at them initially. Being bad is good. Being bad is a starting point. You can only go up from there. And even if up is now you died 30 times in a mission instead of 100 times, that's an improvement. You're better, and that is great. The only time I would say stay away from something if you know you're bad at it is when it's something you have to do with others, because then good manners say it is unfair for you to F things up for everyone else because you're refusing to admit to your skill level. For example, there are games that you will never convince me to switch on the multiplayer for, because I am not about to have my entire ancestry get cursed out because I wasn't honest about my skills and was bringing down the rest of my team. It is unfair, but outside of that, you're all good. Let's all collectively take it as a mantra that we are allowed to be bad, to be terrible, to be not good at things. Perfection weighs heavy on us all. Who needs that? Especially when it comes to video games, which ideally we play for fun, for escape. If it means that, for example, you have to lower the difficulty on the game, go ahead and do so. You paid good money for that game. Why shouldn't you get all the benefits from playing it? And when you want a higher challenge, you raise the difficulty level bit by bit until you're comfortable playing the game at the highest possible difficulty. And you find out eventually that, hey, I've gotten better at this. And then you can be like me and take things a step further and buy a Souls game only to be absolutely trashed in a way that has you questioning your choices and calling your mother because you need the sound of home to remind you of why your existence is not absolutely useless. I'm joking. About the worthless existence bit, not the game kicking my ass bit. What I've instead done is set the game aside for a bit. I'll eventually work my way back around to it and take it one fight at a time, slowly learning, the same way I learned on my NES over 2 decades ago. It is fine. Also, I do think this is a great time to mention that this video was inspired by a comment from a longtime commenter on my channel, Reflective Rambling. And yes, I know you're not a gamer, and sure you're terrible at it, but maybe consider giving it a bit of a spin at a much easier difficulty like God mode or something. Maybe it might be better and not as terrible. But back to what I was saying about easing things with the difficulty level. This applies not just to video games, by the way, but everything else really. Do you want to learn pottery like my failed attempt at age 8? Easy. Start small. Maybe a vase is too big. You could start by learning how to make, say, a mug. The smallest mug possible. Allow for the imperfections and the flaws. Who said it has to be perfect and good? It can be terrible and a mess. But you made it with your 2 lovely, amazing hands. And that is worth celebrating. Or maybe you want to try writing a novel. Start with a short story. Write with all the flaws. Maybe your dialogue is cheesy and your plot makes no sense and your characters are basically recreated from your favorite TV show. But hey, at least you wrote something. It exists. And who knows, with repeated practice, you could get better. And if original fiction doesn't call to you, my beloved fan fiction is always there to welcome you home and encourage your improvements. Maybe it's the singing. Get your friends earplugs next time you're all at karaoke and sing your favorite tunes. A lot of people suck at karaoke anyway. They are meant for those who suck at singing. But let yourself be not good at things. Let yourself be terrible at things. Let yourself stop chasing absolute perfection. Give yourself permission to be bad. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you didn't and thought this video was bad, that's fine. Hit the dislike button. The choice is yours. If you think there's someone or people in your life who need to hear these words of mine, then be sure to share this video. It all helps my channel grow and is incredibly supportive of my content. Speaking of support, a huge thank you to my patrons, without whom paying my bills, especially in this economy, would be tremendously hard. I do not take any of you for granted. Thank you. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, the link to do so is in the description box. I make new videos 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And all my videos drop at 5 p.m. EST on upload days. Whilst you wait for new videos from me, check out my video where I talk about how RPGs are home. Until next time, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.